It's Jimmy Smith with my post-fight night breakdown, Joanna Jacek versus Michelle Waterson. I did a complete pre-fight on my podcast with Ryan Moody. I'm going to have a link below so you can check it out. In the video I did, I only broke down the co-main and main pre-fight. But on the podcast, we did all of them. So you can get my predictions and thoughts on every fight on the main card, on the podcast. It's linked below. But the breakdown is going to be for the entire main event, the entire main card. And entertaining night, although a lot of decisions, but interesting stuff moving forward. To start out, Eric Anders, Gerald Meerschaert, he wins a split decision. Eric Anders is one of those guys, when his career started in the UFC, obviously a setback to Lyoto Machida, but kind of seen as maybe that next round of 185-pound contenders. One of those guys who's physical, former football player, strong, athletic, kind of that next wave of mixed martial artists who were athletes before and then transitioned in mixed martial arts late. But there were high hopes for him. Then he lost 3 in a row. Khalil Roundtree, Thiago Santos, Elias Theodoro, and that kind of sidetracked him. Beating Meerschaert kind of gets him back in it, in a sense. I don't know if he'll get back to the heights of contender status or, maybe future contender status. But what I got from this is Eric Anders controlled the real estate for a lot of this fight. It was a very close fight, and a lot of people thought Meerschaert won it, and that's fair. But I thought he controlled the real estate. He was the one moving forward. Both guys landed effective strikes. I thought essentially Eric Anders landed a bit more often. And then Meerschaert would hit him with one and really hurt him. The body kick, I believe, was the end of round 1, really hurt him. The couple right hands, the end of the fight, it really hurt him. It was when Meerschaert really turned it on and landed clean, he had a big impact on Anders. I thought Anders was a little more consistent, kind of walking him down, pot-shotting him a little bit more. That he was just the busier fighter and controlled more of the real estate. But when Meerschaert did hit him, he hurt him more than once. So the people that favor that as a criteria, that's understandable. They thought Meerschaert won it. Eric Anders, though, was the one moving forward, and he was constantly landing, not as effectively, but constantly landing. And it was his volume a little bit more than the power of Meerschaert, although I think the power of Meerschaert was a big factor. But he wins a split decision, kind of gets him back on track. We'll see where he goes from there. Matt Frivola, Luis Pena. I thought Pena won the first 2 rounds of this one. I know it was a split decision. It was a close fight. Frivola clearly won round 3, but I thought Pena won the first 2 rounds. I thought at the end of round 1, he had Frivola hurt, and then he hurt him at the beginning of round 2. I thought, man, he's really got him figured out. I really thought that. He was landing effectively. He had him kind of on roller skates at the end of round 1. And I thought, man, he might have him here. He's kind of got him. And then Frivola, to his credit, finished strong in round 3 and then ended up winning a split decision. I thought Pena won the first 2 rounds, but as long as you can give one of those first 2 rounds to Matt Frivola, you can give him the fight. Because he certainly won round 3. Big step back for Pena. Frivola's a guy who came in, and I think more people were expecting Pena to be a factor in the division than they were expecting Frivola to be a factor in the division. That's interesting. Although, each guy's had a few fights in the UFC, I think more eyes were on Pena. So to me, it's more of a step back for Pena than it is a step forward for Frivola, although Frivola did have an excellent performance. Pena was a guy I think the UFC had their eyes on for a, maybe not a contender, but a guy that could be a ticket seller, get some fan momentum. He's got the Violent Bob Ross thing. He's got a good social media presence. And he has a very visually appealing style. Wide open, athletic, funky on the ground. Went for the triangle with the arm instead of the leg, stuff like that. Tricky ground style. Went for an inverted triangle. Great stuff. But, Frivola was when he finished strong and ended up winning the fight. So it's a step back for him in that Pena, you have to beat the Matt Frivolas of the world in order to get to that next level, even, fight night main event type status. You've got to beat the Matt Frivolas of the world, and you have to beat them convincingly. And that certainly didn't happen. Even if you thought he won, it wasn't a convincing, dominant performance. Frivola finished strong and won the 3rd round. So that's kind of a step back for Pena. We'll see where Frivola and Pena can go. Entertaining fight, though, back and forth. I enjoyed it a lot. It showed that they can have the kind of fight that fans can really get behind and at least enjoy. That's an important statement to make. But I see it, once again, as more of a step back for Pena than a step forward for Frivola. Amanda Rebus versus Mckenzie Duren. Mckenzie Duren just got pieced up from the outside that entire fight. Rebus looked sharp. She looked technical, good combinations, confident, good footwork, bouncing around. She really felt like she owned that fight. And almost from the beginning, Mckenzie Duren just had no answer for the outside striking game. And when you get into a situation like that, I don't care how good your jiu-jitsu is, you're shooting from 10 feet out. If you're getting pieced up from a distance, at range, it's very hard to flip the script and get a good outside takedown going. Outside takedowns are really, really tough, especially in MMA. And Mckenzie Duren committed to a few takedowns. I'll get into this later with the Kron Gracie fight. She committed to a few takedowns, but the range that Rebus was controlling made that impossible. It made it you can't shoot a high crotch from 10 feet out and think you're going to have success. It's not going to happen. You got to get your opponent either moving toward you or get close enough to make it effective, and she couldn't do any of that. And Mckenzie Duren's striking was just at least a level below Rebus, and so she never made her jiu-jitsu a factor the entire time. If you're going to be, and once again I'll get into this later with the Kron fight, if you're going to be a specialist, you have to be relentless. Relentless. If you're a grappling specialist, you have to be relentless. Damian Maia does not have a great takedown. He just goes for it and goes for it and goes for it. Now, of course, when he hits Division I wrestlers, that's when everything breaks down. But what he does, he gets your back against the fence, and then he double legs. And then he tries to pull up the fence and take you down, and he will do that for 15 damn minutes. He will. Ben Askren's a wrestling specialist. The dude will just go for a takedown, go for a takedown, go for a takedown until he gets it. Now, of course, he has national Olympian credentials in wrestling, so it's much easier for him. But the point is, if you're going to be a jiu-jitsu specialist, you have to be willing to go to that well over and over and over. And Mckenzie Duren went to it a few times. She committed to a few takedowns. Her striking wasn't good enough to set them up. And this is all across the board in martial arts. If I don't believe the feint, I'm not going to believe the attack. You get it? If your wrestling's not good enough to take me down, I'm not worried about your jiu-jitsu. If your striking isn't good enough to set up your takedown, I'm not worried about your wrestling. You have to get me to bite on the striking. If your striking is just a feint to set me up and I don't buy it, I'm not falling for the trap. No way. And Mckenzie Duren was never able to establish her striking enough to get Rebus to bite on it. Meaning, if you land a couple jabs and they start popping your head back, you can feint the jab and go for the takedown. And I'll buy that jab because you've been cracking my nose with it. My eyes are blurry. I can't see. All right, I believe the jab. I believe you're going to hit me with the jab. If you commit to a takedown and you get me down or almost get me down, the next time you feint for the takedown, I'm going to believe it. And I'm going to sprawl or I'm going to bring my hands down. That sets up the rest of your offense. Mckenzie Duren never got her offense in terms of her striking going enough to get her offense going in terms of her takedown, which sets up her jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of talk now about did she come back too early from her pregnancy? Look, I don't know what's in her head. I didn't see her deficiencies in this fight being physical. She didn't look out of gas. She didn't look sluggish. She didn't look like her timing was just gone. She just got tactically outstruck. I didn't see the, wow, she came back too fast and her body's not ready. I didn't see that. I saw someone who tactically wasn't prepared for the fight she was in. Her striking just wasn't good enough. Her pregnancy has nothing to do with that. And also, when you as an adult decide to come back into a fighting for any reasons, from an injury, from a pregnancy, whatever it is, from an emotional problem, you're telling everybody, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Anything that happens in that fight, no excuses. You decided you were ready. Nobody forced you. Nobody pushed you. You decided you were ready. Now, that can be a mistake, but you got to own the loss. And to her credit, I haven't seen so far, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, her make that excuse. I've seen a lot of people making that excuse for her. But if you decide you're ready to come back, it's on you. And once again, I didn't see a lot of the deficiencies being physical. It didn't look like, man, she's tired early. Or, boy, she seems sluggish and her timing's really off. Like, she physically isn't there. I didn't see that. I saw someone whose outside striking game wasn't developed enough to deal with an advanced outside striking game, and so she was just getting tuned up the entire time. And so her takedown never worked. Nico Price, James Vick. Nico Price. One thing about Nico Price, and I called this fight in Boise, Idaho, and he knocked a dude out with a hammer fist from his back, okay? He's just one of those freaky dudes who generates power from weird places. He just can hit you with his weird-ass hammer fist and knock you the fuck out. He's that guy. He's got this awkward build. Sparring guys like that sucks. He's got this awkward, lanky kind of build, and everything he throws, he's just able to put power behind it. You're like, where the hell does it come from? Where the hell does that power come from? But he just has it. He just has this freaky kind of strength. And going into that, and once again, if you check out the podcast where we broke it down, that's what I was saying. Nico Price can knock you out from weird places. And That's always tough to deal with. And someone like James Vick, who I thought was a confidence fighter, who probably doubting himself now, most people would after 3 straight losses, you can't give a guy like Niko Price the opportunity to stun you. And I didn't know if James Vick would be all the way there. Tactically, he's good. He's not great. Physically, he's awkward. He's tall and rangy. A lot of that goes away at 170, by the way. Where that advantage where he had his weird build for 55, his build's not that weird for 170. Niko Price has a similar build. So a lot of the physical advantages went away, and James Vick's a young, brash, hungry, confident guy. Well, he knows he's human now. He's lost 3 in a row, 2 of them by knockout. So coming in, I thought it was loaded more on the side of Price. James Vick had only lost to elite-level fighters, Hooker, Justin Gaethje. Those were by knockout. It's that idea that if you're taking on the best of the best, that's fine. And that Niko Price might be the first guy that's out of that category. When you look at Felder, Gaethje, and Hooker, all those guys are elite at 155. Niko Price at 170, he's not elite. He's not there. So the kind of the line is, will he lose to a guy who's not elite? Well, number one, this is 170 pounds, different weight class. And number two, this is a different James Vick to me. This is a guy who's lost 3 in a row and might not have that swagger that fueled him early on in his career. And what happened, they had a kind of a quick back and forth fight, and he got knocked out by an up kick in the first round, minute 44 seconds. Bad knockout if you didn't see it. Bad. Didn't know where he was for a long time. Once again, Niko Price can just knock you out from weird places, weird positions. You think you're safe, and boom, you're out. Where does James Vick go from here? I don't know. That's tough, because if you're going to stay at 170, it doesn't get any easier. Niko Price, you got to beat those kind of guys if you want to make your name at 170 pounds. There are a lot of great names at 170. There's not a lot of room for a pretty tough guy who is not going to get to the elite status, and he doesn't look like he's going to get there right now. So what do? You become fodder for somebody else. UFC in many ways, and MMA as a sport, is a microcosm for nature. You are predator or you are prey. If you're not one, you're the other. You're either running from the big monster or you are the big monster, and that's it. And James Vick, is he a monster still? I don't think so. So what happens? You become food for the other monsters. His next one might be in that category where he gets fed to the up-and-coming beasts at 170. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. And so where can James Vick go from here? That's an excellent question. Niko Price, once again, I don't see anything elite even in this, but he'll always have entertaining fights. He'll get some good knockouts. He'll get some highlight reel stuff. He's a likable guy. Weird, but likable. Like, he owns just his own strangeness, and he's a fun guy, and fans can get behind him easily. So he has that, just a likable knockout artist, and that's valuable in any weight class. So there'll be fun fights for Niko Price all the way up. Will he get to the elite status? Probably not, but I'll pay to watch him fight. And in this business, that's what really matters. Cub Swanson versus Kron Gracie. Through the middle of the first round of this fight, I thought to myself, how does Kron think he's going to win this fight? How does Kron think he's going to win this fight? He is striking with Cub Swanson, which is Cub Swanson's strength. It is Kron's weakness. And he seems content to box with this guy. And he wasn't winning the boxing exchanges. So I'm sitting there watching this going, he's not even trying to take him down. He's not even committing to a takedown. In the first round, when it's easier to take somebody down early and not sweaty, both fresh, you can be sharp, and they're aggressive, they're full of energy, so they throw that shot and you change levels and take them down. And Kron wasn't going for it at all. At all. And you can almost see Cub Swanson, to me, kind of going, dude, this guy's not even going to try to take me down. Oh, shit. Oh, man, he's going to box with me. This is great. And he lost a 3-round boxing match. No real commitment to the takedown. Tried to pull guard a couple times. That's not going to work at this level. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I could not believe what I was seeing. Look, a machine gun might have a bayonet on the end of it. All right? Does it work? Sure. Can you kill someone with a bayonet? Yes. You generally wait for the machine gun to not work. You generally wait until you are out of bullets to use the bayonet. You don't default to the weakest weapon you are holding. Get what I'm saying? Kron Gracie is a jiu-jitsu master and fell back to a boxing match for 15 minutes that he was losing. I would understand maybe if he had landed a big one early and hurt Cub, and then it's like, oh shit, I can do this. And then, it goes downhill from there. He wasn't successful from the beginning against, in my opinion, from what I saw, a significantly diminished Cub Swanson. I think the Cub Swanson of a couple years ago knocks him out. Cub also isn't the guy that he used to be, understandably. He's been through a lot of wars. Cub didn't look super duper sharp. He's throwing from the hip and grazing a lot of shots, wasn't as accurate as he used to be, wasn't explosive as he used to be, and yet was still outboxing Kron pretty handily for 15 minutes. And then he would come in and Kron would kind of do this clinch stuff, and Cub would literally just shrug him off. Cub's not the best wrestler in the division by a long shot, and was just easily just shrugging Kron off. Kron wasn't committing to any of these. Mckenzie Duren, you could see when she was getting tagged on the outside, she was on the outside the whole time. It wasn't an in-close boxing range kind of striking competition. And she committed to a few takedowns. She just couldn't get it. She was shooting from too far outside, couldn't do it. Kron wasn't even committing to the takedowns. I don't understand what he was thinking. And then what they call, in Portuguese, it was taught to me as the pisão. That kind of push kick thing that he was doing, Kron at the beginning. That's something Royce and Hickson did 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's like, really? That's what you're doing? I mean, and that's not an effective kick. What it is it's like kind of a rangefinder, and you kick and you land and you're closer to the guy and you clinch him. That's what Royce would do. He wouldn't really kick. He would just kind of do that and then land and he's close to you, and then he'd grapple and take the guys down. That's not going to work, Kron. 2019, the pisão's not going to work. I don't, teep kicks work, but it's a different kind of kick. Quad kicks work. It's a different kind of kick. It was just baffling to me that a jiu-jitsu guy didn't even commit to any takedowns. I would understand if he committed to a few and it didn't work. Right, the machine gun isn't working. So I got to use the bayonet. I got to hit this guy to set up my takedown. Even in the middle of these exchanges, when he hit Cub a few times, bloodied him, hit him a few times, he didn't go boom takedown, the old Matt Hughes special, the right hand to the takedown. He never did that. And when I say there's a significantly diminished Cub Swanson, Gracie landed on the feet. Gracie, landed some shots. He's not a great striker, so they were comparatively slow. They didn't have a ton of pop behind him. He never really rocked Cub, hurt him a few times, hit him. But the Cub Swanson, I think a few years ago, doesn't get hit by these punches either. So even a Cub Swanson that didn't have what he once had was outboxing Gracie. And Gracie was landing enough to stay in it, but I don't think he ever should have thought at any point in this fight, I'm winning. I know he said afterward he thought he won the fight. His corner should have said, you are not winning this fight. I don't remember what they said, as commercials in between rounds, if I recall. I don't remember what they said, but I would have told you, you're losing this boxing match. You may think you're winning, you are not winning. And the judges, of course, agreed. All three judges, 30-27. Don't tell me you thought you won the fight. That's crazy. But I just couldn't believe the strategy. And when it comes to Cub Swanson, for Gracie, this is as good as it's going to get. In terms of Cub Swanson has great name value for the amount of skill he has left. The best ratio at 145 of name value to ability to defend that name is Cub Swanson right now. That's not an insult. What I mean is he still has a huge fan base. He still has people remember how good Cub Swanson was at one time. He's still an exciting fighter, but he had lost three in a row coming in. I'm sorry, 4 in a row coming in, and so a lot of the shine had been taken off him. But he has a big fan base. That is a gift if you're Gracie. Look, this is as good as it's going to get for you. We're giving you a guy who still has a name, but seems to be past his prime, has a style that might be vulnerable to your style. Here you go. And he didn't win because, in my mind, he just chose the wrong strategy. It was insane to me watching this. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Another thing you have to keep in mind for Kron is the dude is 31 years old. He's just starting his MMA career, but he's not a spring chicken. He's 31. And you could say, well, he hasn't been in MMA, he hasn't worn his gears off yet. Been in jiu-jitsu his entire life. So he has the same costs athletically His body's been through a lot. He doesn't have a lot of time to get the slow come up of 4 or 5 guys, and then I'll get my title shot. It's going to be in his late 30s, early 40s by then. They have to and what you could see what they intended to do, which is give him a big name who's very beatable stylistically and physically, and see where he can go. And Gracie made, in my opinion, horrible tactical choices and clearly lost that fight. And so where does he go at 31 without a ton of time left? And that's the most beatable name he's going to get. Everybody in front of Cub Swanson, there's some murderers out there at 45 who are much better wrestlers, much better strikers, who could really take Gracie apart from what I saw if he doesn't really work on his wrestling. And I don't like today I'm reading much stuff, I won that fight. Dude, you got to face reality. You lost the fight because you made bad decisions. The only way you're going to get better is acknowledging that and making better decisions. That's it. You going out there going, I won, you're not facing the decisions you made that cost you that fight. You're not. And so that's the disappointing part. If a Gracie went, man, I made the wrong choices. He beat me fair and square. He outboxed me. I got to work on this, and that. I'd feel a lot better about it. But to go like, I thought I won that fight. 30-27 on all 3 judges' scorecards. I don't know a single fan who thinks he won that fight. So he needs an honest reassessment of where he is and where his MMA skills are at this point. But that's what I feel about the co-main event. Jędrzejczyk versus Waterson, pretty simple. Going into this, I thought Jędrzejczyk is too much for Michelle Waterson. There's a great documentary series. It's on YouTube. Check it out if you can. Called Legendary Nights, about these great boxing matches. We're on HBO. And there's one, Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson. They're talking about Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson. And somebody's talking about how Lennox Lewis beat Mike Tyson. He goes, he should beat Mike. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's faster, and he's a better boxer. There's the name Mike Tyson, but at that point, Lennox Lewis is a better fighter. He has all the physical advantages, and he's technically better. That's how I felt about Jędrzejczyk. She should beat Michelle Waterson. She's bigger, she's stronger, she's faster, and she's a better striker. How is Michelle Waterson going to win? And that's what happened. Jędrzejczyk outstruck her for 25 minutes. And, Waterson tough enough to stay in it, but physically outmatched, tactically outmatched in terms of experience. A lot of people talked about, and in the podcast, my co-host on the podcast, Ryan Moody, talks about, he thinks it was head games that Joanna Jędrzejczyk was playing the week before about the weigh-ins. I think if that's right, which I don't think it is, if that's right, it's the dumbest thing you could have done. Because if you're Michelle Waterson, at some level, if she's honest with herself, she knew she was walking into a very tough fight. At best against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Even if she thought she could win, it's a tough fight. The only thing that would give her and her team hope, in my opinion, is something weird, like she won't make weight, or maybe she got sick late in camp, or maybe she has some weird injury that would, while you're hitting pads, your coaches might be going, dude, she's going to gas out, man. She didn't make, she had trouble making weight the week before. If we keep the pressure on, so no matter how the fight goes, you can tell yourself she'll be dead in the 5th round because she had trouble making weight. Now, that ended up not being the case, but it gave Michelle Waterson, this whole weigh-in thing, to me, a confidence boost. Hey, she's having trouble at the end of camp. Maybe something's going on here. Maybe she has some injury I can take advantage of. Maybe she'll run out of gas in the 4th round. So if it was a head game on Joanna Jędrzejczyk's part, which I don't personally believe, I think the stupidest head game you could play is to display weakness to an opponent who, if they don't see any weakness, are going to be intimidated. Joanna Jędrzejczyk's a tough fight, period, for Michelle Waterson, under the best of circumstances. And then you're going to go out there and do that? That's crazy. So great performance by Jędrzejczyk. She looks like she might be tight already, but we'll see how it goes. Let me know what you guys think. Always great talking to you.